drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a big welcome to the Bastures Inquiry Sunday Sermon Easter Sunday special, featuring coverage from Fairyhouse tomorrow. We've got all the hot topics, and joining me this evening is an all-star cast. Not only do we have Jonas Leng to dish the dirt, we've got two people that very, very dear to me. Cathryn Fry. Good evening, Cathryn Fry.
Good evening, Lee.
Yes. Brilliant to have you back on. And
German, man.
Yeah.
You've got that Nazi hair on again, have you? Helga.
Helga out of Hello. Yeah.
She was brilliant.
And last but not least, it's hair flick. It's Declan Carroll. Good evening, Declan Carroll.
Good evening, Lee. Glad to be back.
Yes. This should be a great show. And without further ado, we'll get on with reviewing, and then we'll get onto some chewy topics. John, I'm going to come to you first because the trials were this week for the Guineas, in essence. And on Tuesday, we had the Nell Gwyn won by Cachet of George Bowie's. And I want to know what you thought of that as a trial, and anything out of there we can be looking at to any of the classics.
Well, I wouldn't have thought there'd be anything in there that we'd need to be too worried about for the classics. I actually thought Cachet would win because I thought she would benefit from the 7 furlong trip, to be honest. And I didn't see anything there that gave me the impression she'd be gagging for a mile.
Yeah.
I think that's a trip. Harry will probably run her in the Guineas. I can see her finishing 5th or 6th. Yeah,
no, nothing there for me, really. I think the fillies really that represent about 105 to 108, around that sort of level. Amazingly, the 5th horse in the race, Flash Betty, who managed to improve to sort of listed class last year, was beaten in Keith Della's last year. Incredible for Mick Windmill. An horse finishing 5th in an Nell Gwyn after being beaten in Sellers. Not form for me, that. Declan, Cathryn, did you? I know, like, Cathryn, did you, not your thing, sort of like classic trials, but did any of you two have any thoughts on it?
I got a fucking clue. I haven't watched it yet. I was at Cheltenham.
You're missing nothing.
I genuinely haven't caught up on that yet. I worked at Cheltenham on Wednesday.
Fair enough.
And then on Thursday, I took my daughter racing with some friends of hers, and I'm still trying to recover from it.
Oh, no.
It was a hard day.
Yeah, sounds good. Declan, did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Like that, and that's how much I think it is Cheltenham meeting. As I was actually watching Newmarket, but she was good. I actually fancied Rishi's Bar, but that tells you how much I know about flat racing. But yeah, Cachet was good and probably boosted the form of some others, but it's not really my thing. It's more your thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really. But so we'll move on to after an uneventful Nell Gwyn, we'll move on to the Craven. Quite a nice historical race is the Craven, not in terms of producing many Guineas winners statistically, but certainly an interesting sort of trial. John, thoughts on Native Trails' performance?
Well, it might have done more than a piece of work at home.
Yeah.
I thought Buick really looked after him, certainly from bushes to dip. I thought I was very, very careful not to pick him up too soon. Ross just pounced up, really, didn't he? As you'd have expected at 5s on, I mean, not a lot to take out the race other than the horses in one pace after the winter, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Claymore's interesting going forwards at sort of this level. If he gets softer ground, if you look at his action, I think he's suited to a bit more cut than what were available.
Do you think, John, that to me, Native Trail, I thought look, it's very hard to pick holes in him. He won really, really well, and he won as he should have. But I thought his head carriage was a bit high, and he was bigger than the rest. Do you think they might catch up with him by midsummer?
He's so much bigger. I tend to doubt it. The head carriage is interesting. You maybe would like it a fraction lower, but I don't think there's any issue there, really. He's such a good stamper horse, you know. I mean, he can sort of he gets away with the head carriage a bit, you know. I mean, it's a quibble, isn't it? It's not really a glaring thing. You know, you have to really look for it.
Yeah.
And I think if we went on the head carriage, we sort of trying to pick a hole that maybe isn't there.
Yeah. He probably jump a fence in time, will he?
Looks like he would. I must just say,
it will if he goes to the National Stud, because they're known for jumping fences and covering mares on the Kilt, say, aren't they? So.
Love it. So what we saying? Are we saying Native Trail or Caribus, John? Because I'm pretty sure probably one of them will win.
I couldn't look past Native Trail at this stage. I think they're being very careful with Caribus. I mean, the intention was to go for the Greenham. Then obviously, Applejoust didn't fancy a crack at a speed horse in the shape of the Greenham winner. So he probably didn't want Caribus really lit up as he would have been in a speedy Greenham, you know. It was probably better doing the racecourse gallop and like a controlled environment, if you like. Stop lighting the horse up so much, so close to the Guineas. So the impression is he's dealing with a bit of a powder keg with Caribus, and he might need a little bit more finesse, and you know, and crash bang wallop of a Guineas down into the dip. I think finesse might be out the window, so I'd stick with Native Trail, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah. Declan, you same. Are you Native Trail for the Guineas?
I don't know whether the Native Trail. Like I don't like backing favourites, but I can't see Caribus laying a glove on them. You are struggling to find something, like, unless, you know, has Aidan got a Galileo who's turned inside out, you know, from 2 to 3, which they, you know, a lot of them do that. You know, what Luxembourg will probably run a big one and go on to the Derby, be favourite for the Derby. He's probably not, you know, he's not a Guineas type. I can see him running a big race. It is very hard to see Native Trail getting beat. I just think, you know, going to the National Stakes, Native Trail wasn't even favourite there. But since he's gone and won that, you know, and I thought he should have been favourite that day. You know, Point Lonsdale was quite short.
Yeah.
And then he's gone and won the Dewhurst. He was good again the other day. I just think he's obviously a good horse, but he's probably getting overhyped at this stage now. So he'd probably be bad value on the day. He'd be probably the best horse in the race, but you might find some value further down the field. You know, something to chase him home. It is difficult to see him being beat, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the trials at Newbury yesterday. The Fred Darling at 2:25 was won by, again, Applejuice. Wild Beauty doing the biz. John, anything that took your eye in this, just for future? Because obviously we know that this is not Guineas form. Any of these that can win 1,000 guineas, but anything that sort of took your eye physically, maybe, or in the run?
Well, I had a bit of a laugh with you, didn't I, about the Stan Mower house?
Yeah.
I mean, she's a good size, that one. I mean, I don't know how the hell he's managed to get all them runs into her, really. You just wish she was with somebody else, really.
Yeah.
She'd have been interesting going forward, I think. But as I say, in view of the trainer, I was probably just going to be swinging madly at everything. I can't really have her on my mind, and I think the overall form's pretty average, really. So.
Yeah, no, I've nothing really to add to that. Nothing really took my eye. In behind, they got Harry Potter on Nick looked today, and he said he would drop in Miss Caroline to 6 furlongs, which I agree because she's very fizzy. She might improve, but nothing in there for me. Declan, anything?
Oh, I was out about 6 o'clock in the morning when I went out Friday night, so I didn't see much, but I did see Harry Potter and Nook on Sunday this morning. He put me back asleep, so I haven't got much to add to it.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he was like the on Pirates of the Caribbean, the Davy Jones, the what you call Flying Dutchman, them seashell creatures that sit on the bottom. He was as dead inside as them.
You remember that priest on Father Ted that used to talk about the boilers?
Father Stone.
And he comes in and Father says, help me!
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, how can he work so long for Mick Jarvis?
But to be honest, we're nearly back to that. We're nearly back to blowing the electricity off the gas and the gas off the electricity. The way prices are going.
I love that episode.
Yeah, it was good old Father Ted. Right, so going on to the Greenham, a mightily impressive performance from me from Perfect Power, and I think the top 7 furlong races, particularly in France, are at the mercy of this horse all summer, whichever they choose. I'd be worried about him at a mile. John and Declan, what do you think?
Well, I wouldn't even run him in the Guineas.
No.
I wouldn't bother. If I was going to go for a Guineas, I'd probably go to France anyway and go around the bend.
Yeah. I mean, some of those like summer races in France over 7 furlongs, etc. I just think he just absolutely win for fun, not doing handspins.
For him, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, but you haven't. The only group, the 7 furlong Group 1 is the foray, isn't it? And you really have to wait till the back end of the season for the Group 2 7 furlongs to kick in. Like, is Goodwood the first? You have to wait until Goodwood for the Group 1 or the Group 2 7 furlong race.
It's the Lennox? It's the Lennox, isn't it?
Yeah.
At Goodwood. They probably could be. It's probably a good thing for the calendar, really, to probably produce more 7 furlong races. But I just don't see him getting the mile properly. And I think they'll want to look after him, given that he's a colt, and like you said, they'll want all the ones next to his name rather than a fading 5th in the Guineas, etc. So yeah, he's very explosive, but very impressive, I thought. Anything to add on that?
Yeah.
No, look, other than you're probably right. Like, I don't even think the trainer thinks he get a mile. Listening to him, he doesn't sound overly confident. But 7 furlong horses for me, they just fall into that bracket of not good enough. Really, they're not sprinters, they're not milers, and they're a bit like Ryanair horses. Fortunately enough, we'll have another day at the festival soon for all of those horses who aren't good enough. But there's not many options for them on the flat because there's only the one Group 1.
Yeah, no, it's like you say, there's a bit of a quandary from there, but I think we're all sort of unanimous on that. Okay, let's move on to some topics where we can absolutely dish the dirt. I read something on Twitter I follow Anthony Kamiskas, a former professional punter that's buying pitches in Ireland, and he's now AK Bets, and he's standing in Ireland, and he posted like a blog like when he's been racing. I like reading his blogs because he tells you what the action is, if there's any action, etc. And he said he laid a 4,001 this horse that he didn't really like, and so he left it at 4-1. And he said remarkably, like several were going like 7-2, 4-1. And they returned it 100-30 industry SP. I mean, what? This is terrible, isn't it? John Declan, this is terrible for punters, isn't it? I mean, this really is like, it's a scandal, isn't it? They're basically getting ripped off. It's not good. Thoughts?
Because they can do it. Yeah. That's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days with the independent SP reporters, is it? What's his face? Neil Wilkins.
Yeah.
World champion ass flicker, but he was a aspiring party, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I couldn't believe it, because the thing is with AK bets, he will tell you honestly what is actually going off. It's been no spin or bluster, and that's why he's worth following for anyone on Twitter, because you'll get the full SP there about what lizards are hanging around the Irish betting rings.
Look, I've had a bet with Anthony, and he's actually come on USO one night, and it is good to see, like, you know, because you have a lot of dinosaurs in the ring, and I was wondering sort of, you know, how he was accepted in, because he's come in, he's a bit fresh, he has the blog, and he's given us a better insight than a lot of them have. But look, he's really, really sound, and I've had a bet with him. It's, you know, fair play to him what he's doing. Sort of bet to the devil, you know, like, you know, because he's out there. There was nothing between the prices. But I've had a bet with him, and, you know, look, he's a good lad. I hope he makes it worse. Now, he's coming on every week saying he's living his bollocks. He's not. He couldn't be, like, you know. You know. So, but a good lad. I hope it really works out well for him.
Yeah. No, just to plug as well for your pod, Declan, because Under Starters Orders podcast, folks, it's well worth a listen. I listened to the to a fair bit of the Irish the Fairyhouse preview, and I like it. I like the format, and I besiege any of you to go and have a listen, because it's full of knowledge, and you'll pick one or two things up. So that's Under Starters Orders podcast. That's Declan's.
Thanks very much, Nate. Cheers.
Home pod. He's on the away team at the moment. He's in the away kit.
I'm only a guest everywhere I go, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Right, come on to the topic of the Kilt. The Kilt's been in the in the news this week, not for his winners or anything like that. He's did a big Racing Post article on betting and racing, and he says that we should be looking to get away from betting to fund racing, which I find that remarkable. And John, of course, made me laugh, because John was straight onto it on Twitter and said, you know, how many ice creams are they going to have to sell to pay for the Group 1s? Yeah, John, Declan, Cathryn, what are we saying here? That why are we steering away from betting or wanting to?
Well, just
I can't be bothered with it.
Well, in Ireland, it's a bit different. You know, racing doesn't fall under the Department of Sport. It's under the Department of Agriculture. And that's why we got back racing so quickly when the pandemic kicked in. You know, when it first kicked in, it's like racing's an industry here more than a sport. Like, it's 20-odd thousand jobs. But the government pumps so much money into Irish racing. It's, you know, we're not crying out for sponsorship. We're not looking for bookies to sponsor races who are basically, you know, the high street bookies who are sucking the pack out. It seems to be completely different in Britain. Like, nobody, you don't get many people going racing in Ireland apart from the big days, but like, there's no panic over here. Like, there's no racing's dying, this, that. But in Britain, they seem to be crying out for new people to go. You know, you get people going who've no interest in racing. They just want to sell points and basically suck it back out. The money doesn't go back in. The British government needs to get their finger out, and, you know, it is tourism too. Pump the money into racing, because like, I travel, I go to Cheltenham, I've been to Aintree. Like, it's tourism. So you shouldn't be relying on, you know, it should come from the government, really, like it does here.
No, it's a fair point, and I looked at I can't remember the exact figures off the top of my head, but it raised a lot of eyebrows in Ireland when a lot of the lefties that are anti-horse racing, anti-greyhound racing, were seeing how much money the Irish government was putting into horse racing and ground racing, and there was a bit of an outcry at one bit saying, why are we giving them so much money? And it's not until you point it out to them that racing, you know, brings a lot of money into the treasury in return. And you, like you said, like you've just said, tourism, people. I mean, like the Dublin Festival now, there'll be a lot of British race goers, more so with Cheltenham being a pisshole. And you know, and this is it. This is a brilliant answer, Declan. I think that's spot on. I think it should be classed as tourism. I mean, every time I go abroad, I always look. Wherever it is, I always look for a race course, or is there a race course near with a meeting on or something to go and visit. So yeah, like you say, it's good stuff.
Yeah, but as well as that, sorry, Lee, as well as that, we don't really have the antis over here, and I often wonder if in Britain, if you just turned around and said, no, no, fuck it, we're just going to have racing, we're going to have jump racing, just say no to the antis and ignore them, they'll find something else to go and complain about. Like, I've never seen nobody. I go racing almost weekly. Nobody's ever come up to me entering the race course and said, shame on you. But going into Cheltenham this year on the Friday, they had the same horse, the same picture of a horse from 20 years ago, doesn't even have a saddle on him. And they're saying, shame on you. I was sort of going, where are we on Wednesday when it was pissing rain? Friday was glorious. Like, do you not care about dead horses when it's raining? It's just like, can these people not be ignored at this stage? They wouldn't get any coverage here. Like, you'd be arrested it'd be nearly assault here. Like, the woman was in my face shouting shame on you, and I just can't understand why it's not ignored. You're pandering to these people. It just doesn't happen here. Like,
it is also, I think, I know we've had this conversation before, Declan, but racing in Ireland is a way of life. It's in the blood. Like, here it's not, and it's also anybody can go racing, but to break the inner sanctum here, as you know, is considered elite. And you've only got to look at the way that things are run. So look at what we have to do to try and get a look at entries. Whereas if I want to look at Irish entries, I just go straight onto HRI and they're there in front of me. Trying to look at entries ahead of time here, I'm tapping someone up with a racing admin account. It's all fucking bullshit the way it's run here. It's sad to see. It's getting worse. The Day Festival, wow, what a fucking disgrace.
Yeah, I know, but what would happen if the BHA said no? Like, try it, say no, and just move on with racing. To me, racing in this country will always survive because
it's an
industry.
Of backbones, Declan?
Sorry?
Have you seen the price of backbones?
The thing is,
enlighten me.
They don't want to say no. They don't want to say no to them because there's an awful, as you probably have gathered a long time ago, there's an awful lot of people in the high echelons of British racing that I don't actually like racing. They don't want to say to them.
They're all Australian, aren't they? What's the story with that? Like, they're all fucking Australian. Like, where did this come from? You have Australian people talking about jump racing. Like, what's the crack there? No wonder it's gone to shite. Like, no wonder there's grade ones going off at Cheltenham with 4 Irish runners in it. Like, no English runners. It's fucking Australia. It's supposed to bring over a horse. Like, we are running a hurdle race. Like, what is actually going on? Like, what? And I can't understand why they just don't go, no, just fuck off. And we just want to get on with the sport that we all love. That's been there since time began. And you have this thing about, can we get new people into racing? But, people have got into racing forever. They haven't. I've never met anybody who's got into racing because Blue were playing after racing, or the Spice Girls were playing. Nobody's ever got into racing because of that. You either get into it or you don't. But I find in British racing, it's such a day out. But all you're bringing in is shite bags who they're not even watching the racing. It's just people coming, you've so much trouble at British racing now that it's not an isolated incident anymore. We did have an isolated incident at Fairyhouse this year. I think it was on New Year's Day where there was a point thrown out into the racecourse. Absolutely disgraceful. But that was, nothing ever happens like that. But in Britain, we need new crowds. We need new crowds. No, you don't. You don't really need to fill race courses all the time because it's an industry. It should be supporting itself as well because, it's jobs. there's fees being paid. And if the government get their finger out and realise it's tourism and support it, you know, it will survive because it's jobs. Like, it's like every other industry. It's jobs. It needs to keep going, you know, and it will support itself somewhat, but it doesn't need what they're trying to bring in people who will suck out the money. The fifth day at Cheltenham, it's only sucking out the money. Like, what you're bringing in, you'd be better off. You know, I'm probably skipping ahead to the topic there, but, you know, all that money you're going to put in to the fifth day at Cheltenham, what if you just gathered it together and put it up for the old Hennessy at Newbury? And what you get then is you get Manila Indo turning up there, you know, off top weight, coming down to the last with his ears pricked and winning. And then you sell the product. And then you say, there's a Gold Cup horse, you know, doing something that people say can't be done, winning the big handicap off top weight, and you sell that product. But that's not happening. It's a fifth day at Cheltenham. Look, you know, what we hear now that it's, you know, it's for kids. I bring my young fella racing as much as possible. I would not bring him to Cheltenham, not to the festival. It's not for kids. You know, I don't bring him to the Dublin Racing Festival, but I bring him to other days at Leopardstown. I bring him racing as much as I can. But, like, you know, it's not for kids. They're just it's a fucking excuse now.
Funniest thing as well is that they're saying that, but from ages like 5 to 17, 18, they're paying the same at the festival. They're paying the same price as adults to get in.
Yeah,
and
but racecourses here do they do like really good family days. Like, you'll have the Derrimstown Stud Day at Leopardstown. It's on a Saturday. You know, it's a one day. They'll put on a family day. There'll be farm animals there. There'll be kids entertainers there. And you go, hopefully it's a nice sunny day. Now, Cheltenham's fucking freezing. I wouldn't bring a child to Cheltenham. It's fucking cold. You can't give him a swig of hip flask, can you? Like, to keep him warm. You know, it's not for children. It's a unique event that has happened. It's the best British horses and the best Irish horses coming together. It's the one time of the year where the Irish horses travel in numbers. And it should be, you know, it should never have gone to 4 days, but it has. But it should, like, 5 days, you know, my liver won't take it. You know,
you'd be going home in a box, Dirty.
Well, I mean,
my voice to be gone.
Just interject. I mean, like, so regarding British racegoers now, and a lot of seasoned racegoers I know of the older brigade, we kind of will not do weekends, bank holidays, any of these like theme nights where there's a band on, because we're not there for that. We're not there for like Peaky Blinders and, you know, and mass brawls. It literally is. We're just there for the racing. And I always remember John on an earlier podcast we did last year, and John described his experience when he was growing up, and he says there were no bouncy castles, there were no, you know, John used to go racing, didn't you, John? Like, for the racing, as in he got it all explained to him at a young age, how to look at horses, to understand them, to, you know, like Dr. Dolittle. But you know, I mean, John, expand on that.
Well, I mean, for example, when I'd be about 8, I think, and we were going to watch what's now the Juddmonte International. It was the Benson and Hedges Gold Cup at the time, and the old fellow was dragging me along. I didn't particularly want to go, but he went to great lengths to explain how Leicester had looked after Dahlia in the epic King George battle between Grundy and Bustino, and how she was going to flip the form round with Grundy, who had a knuckle-busting hard race at Ascot. And he was basically having his bollocks on, and we were on for a Weetabix month if she got bait. And that was like my day's racing that day. It wasn't a case of go on the bouncy castle, get an ice cream, anything like that. It was sit there and shut up, and if this wins, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I thought you were older than that, John. You were only a child there, were you?
Yeah. 8.
Yeah. Old before his time. So, I mean, so yeah, we're all against to cover the topic off. We're all against a 5th day. Cathryn's obviously been a massive advocate of no 5 days, and Cathryn herself has said in the past 3 days was perfect. But we are where we are, and it's coming. The Jockey Club needs to get people playing the slot machines 5 days a week, instead of 4. So I don't know how many kids can play on the slot machines. According to Josh Appiafi, that's why they're doing 5 days, so the kids can go, because the kids are at school. And I mean,
do you know what? There was a time in this country where there was a time where the schools in Naas closed for Punchestown, but Punchestown's a bit different. It is more of Cheltenham is so serious. Punchestown, it's lovely. It's an evening meeting, and it's a unique in another way where it is probably more family orientated. Horses are, you still get good quality horses turning up. They're a little bit over the top at the time. You get funny results, but there's only one Cheltenham, and it's probably not for kids. It's just not. Like it's midweek, it's March, it's cold, it's serious stuff. Like they've enough time to go to Cheltenham. Go to Uttoxeter. Bring your kids to Uttoxeter, because you've a great meeting on there. You've the Midland National. And that needs support, and the rest of UK racing needs support, because particularly jump racing, it's going nowhere at the moment, and it Cheltenham's bigger than ever. It doesn't need it. Put it into the rest of British racing, because that really needs it at the moment.
Yeah, no, spot on. Declan, do you subscribe to Racing TV?
No, I wouldn't pay for anything. No.
I mean, well, you do right. I mean, you're not missing anything. I mean, the Saturday's coverage was a complete mess. I mean, you've got, obviously, Cork had an unfortunate injury delay, which obviously they couldn't help. And then you've got Jockey Club Racecourses Newbury deciding that they want to take another 7 or 8 minutes to run a race there. And it was absolutely, it's just seeing everything split screen. It's an absolute nonsense.
Sorry, Nate. I do subscribe to Racing TV. I thought there was something more, articles and stuff that I wouldn't be into reading. But obviously, to watch racing now in Ireland, you have to have Racing TV. But yeah, double boxing. And somebody made a good comment yesterday. Like there was a race gone off at Fairyhouse, which was probably 3 miles, and the commentary was on Fairyhouse. In the meantime, they ran a sprint at Newbury. Why not put the commentary in Newbury? There's nothing happened. They're only running down the back straight at Fairyhouse. There's not an awful lot going on. Put the commentary on the shorter race. It's something that we heard when it first came in. We heard, we're going to get it right. It was given the benefit of the doubt, but there's still a few issues there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the split screens. Anyone that wants to watch it live can watch it off a Bookies video or Betfair video or whatever. If you've had a bet and you want to watch it live, but I think just for enjoyment and watching the race, I honestly don't see the point of it.
To watch it on a day where I want to focus on one, like say Dublin Racing Festival, and I think the one day obviously they covered that continuously, and then I think the next day it split with something else. I tend to watch it on, on the laptop, where you can have it's not extra, is it extra? Where you can just pick a meeting and watch that solidly.
Yeah,
the red button.
Yeah, I just watched that, and I'll probably do that with Fairyhouse tomorrow.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Right, we'll move on to, before some listeners' questions, just the Jimmy Lindley column. John, Declan, Cathryn. Any bent horses this week?
I don't know how bent it is, but I've got one actually from yesterday at Newbury. That I thought was quite interesting. I think Dangerous Dave Evans has a fairly nice filly called Honorary Member, and she's been very interesting in the market the 3 times she's run. 25 to 1, 33s, and 200 to 1 yesterday under Kieran Skidmark. And she ran in a Mile Maiden at Newbury. Led to the furlong pole and moved nice, looked a fair sort, and then went out like a snuffed candle, which resulted in me having a look at the pedigree. And she all over a 6 or 7 furlong filly on the pedigree. she'll be handicapped now. I've got her with 59 in the bank. I'd be very interested in anything under 68, 70-ish in a 6 furlong handicap.
Good stuff. 4:45 Newbury for folks wanting to watch the video. Honorary member for John. Get that in your trackers. Sprint handicaps, he says, off around 60 odd. That would be worth backing. Mine went at Musselburgh, a bit of pocket talking. The always train combination of the Kilt and the Johnston, the Kilt and the Quilt. Value theory. I put up as a bet on Friday. To me, wasn't off a yard. Though I would also think that they might be thinking over further, and I'm very interested in this filly over middle distances this year because she's got a very good staying pedigree, and I thought stepping up from 7 to the mile might be okay from 2. She got some smart form at 2, but I think she's going to make a really nice staying filly. Thought there was a lot in the tank crossing the line full of run, so value theory for me is a filly very much to follow this season, either listed level or maybe if they decide to go handicapping in top fillies handicaps over a mile and a quarter, I'd be very interested in her. Declan, anything you spotted this week?
I didn't spot any non-triers. Is that what the question is? No.
Well, not necessarily. No. I mean, you can have anything really, anything that you want to follow, or you think, oh, this will win next time, or whatever. Or
look, there's nothing that's jumping to mind. Nothing this week.
No, that's fine. Okay, we'll move on, and so that's Jimmy Lindley out of the way. Listeners' questions. Golf club's been on. He's probably our unluckiest listener. He's more unluckier than me. And he said, when is the best time to place your bets and why? He said, would you go evening before, day of race, purse time? Is there any? I mean. Well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? I mean, you'd be if you've got the accounts and you know your bet is you go the night before. If you haven't got the accounts, the bookie accounts to do that, then for me it's left to Spanish bookies, illegal Spanish bookmakers, and on the machine near the off, until they kick me off of there. So So that's my answer. Anything you chaps do, or when you get on?
I try to get a big prize just before I tip them on the pod.
John has the 50s and you get the 16s. Yes.
It depends.
Didn't it?
It depends on whose horse it is.
Yeah.
Price, everything. When I bet, if I can, the night before, if I see a really nice price. But again, if it's sort of one, but you're not sure if today's the day, I tend to watch what the market's sort of up to. And sometimes, as you know yourself, Lee, things will come in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It all depends. Depends who it is.
Yeah. No, agreed. So connecting to that question, Mark Mackay's been on. He says, is each way wanker betting long-term profitable as a pro punter? So basically, my answer to that, Mark, is the each way terms have changed somewhat over time. The bookmakers seem to be paying more places these days, but have obviously gone 1/5 the odds instead of a quarter. So what I'd do is, this is a pin sticker's guide to whether you should back each way or not. Check what the place price is on Betfair. So, for example, if you've got an 8-to-1 shot and they're paying, so you're getting 8-to-5 for your money. If it's 2.6ish on Betfair, it's not bad as an each way bet. If it's 3.3 on Betfair, so that's like 9-to-4 a place, then it's a terrible each way bet. So you may as well back it win. So I would use Betfair as am I doing the right thing by backing each way? But then to add to that, you've got the absolute pigs that will either finish second or first because they'll either pig it near the line. There's lots of horses like that love coming there cantering and just mess around near the finish. They're the ones really you have to back each way because simply there's a high chance they'll also just say no, and they ain't going to go past the front runner when they come there travelling well. So there's lots of different variables to decide what's a good each way bet. But I'd say in general, play the numbers, which is what Betfair says in terms of what the true place price should be. And then, go from there. Any thoughts on that, chaps, that question?
Yeah, I think maybe the context of the race as well, I mean, I'll put that each way wanker bet up on Friday night. The gamble horse, Andrew Oliver's at Cork, playing it safe. I mean, all right, we got nutted by an 85 poke on Betfair, but there was no way at 6-1 that was going to be out the first three if that was off.
Yeah. Exactly. Context of race as well. I agree. There's lots of things where there's lack of depth, etc. Okay, Adam Norman's been on. Stan Moore's drinking partner. And he says he's 14 days long enough for that serious riding breach by Brendan Powell. It was tantamount to GBH, says Norman. Any of you chaps watched it?
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I didn't think it was great now. I had a look at it yesterday, and then I had a look at it this morning, and I said, I'll try and make a case for him, but, it was bad, wasn't it? It's very hard to defend. And normally be coming off to the stand rail, because that's where the rail is, so you'd be looking for that ground, but, geez, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. It's...
No, I'm watching it now.
All right. What do you think? I was going, look, I was thinking, I watched the first one and said, you're entitled to, keep racing room, and, if you're in front, rubbing is racing, isn't it? But I watched it back again this morning. It wasn't good.
No.
Especially on that side of the track. If it was this side of the track when they'd all come over to the rail, and you're looking for the rail, but it's like you tried to put him out. It was dangerous.
I thought Robbie Dunn had sneaked back and he was practicing some Brian.
Yeah, I mean, for listeners, it's the 249 at Newton Abbot. Personally, I think the 14 days is quite lenient. I think there was an element of deliberateness there. I'm not saying anyone...
Actually, I thought Brogan hit that plastic rail quite flush.
Yeah.
It was as though he almost got speared by it. He didn't hit the rail side on. It was like the end of the rail, hitting right in the solar plexus.
John, I can tell you watch things like Saw, horror films like Saw, because you're taking delight in that he's been speared. He's been speared. We're going to play a game.
he wasn't moving much after he hit the lad.
No. No, it was bad. I mean, this is, I see it. 14 days, I think he's quite lucky. I'd be looking at a little bit longer jail term than that.
But just to touch on jockeys being hurt, like Giannolini took a bad fall today in the maiden hurdle at Fairyhouse, and I went onto Twitter looking to see was she all right, and there was absolutely nothing about her. But if that was a horse, there would have been, basically competition to see who was more upset about the horse being down. The screens are gone up around the horse. I'm more upset than you. But you have a jockey who has, a family, a job. I don't know her personal life, but she's a person. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I put it up on Twitter. It actually took the girl herself to respond to me on Twitter to say, yeah, I'm okay. Sometimes I don't know whether it's there was nobody from Ireland that responded. There was nothing over here, so I couldn't even compare Britain and Ireland with it. But sometimes we have it so wrong. We're all, at the end of the day, you get into this game and the dangers of it, and sometimes, unfortunately, horses don't make it. But when it's a jockey, it's more serious, in my opinion. And there was very little about that girl today, and it looked bad. Thankfully, she is okay.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very tough sport. And like I said, these incidences certainly need calling out. And I think as maximum punishment as anyone dares, really, because I thought Brendan Powell was on the deliberate side when with his manoeuvre, etc.
His elbows right out as well.
Yeah.
There's no even like, oh, it's a bit tight here and I'm tucking in. He's pure sort of flinging the other.
Yeah, if he hadn't run him out, he'd have elbowed him in the chest, wouldn't he?
Indeed. Right, we've got a total of 15 minutes left on the show, so I'm passing the floor over to Cathryn and Declan, really, because there are two Irish experts for tomorrow's cards with at Fairyhouse. And guys, what would be your sort of like best bets tomorrow at Fairyhouse? Cathryn, I'll start with you. Just fire away, and yeah.
Yeah, I've got two that have been in the trapper for so long, and I've sort of wanted to see out Cheltenham and Aintree, and they've never arrived there, and they both run tomorrow. I've spoken about them a couple of times on the pod, and that's the Devil's Coachman and Blackbow. The Devil's Coachman, she won the Boyne hurdle. There was me expecting that he was going to go and make a real chaser. He stays over hurdles. That's fine. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He runs tomorrow, and as does Blackbow. And Blackbow, I thought at the Dublin Festival, I couldn't make up my mind whether he was a bit of a non-jigger or not. And I then put him in the notebook as a non-jigger, and he then went and won at Clonmel. He was entered in the Topham, and I actually half fancied him for the Topham. He runs tomorrow at Fairyhouse. I'm going to be backing him. If there's any rain in the morning, I'm going to be backing my old friend Screaming Colours, who won the Midlands National over here. Jamie Codd taking the ride tomorrow. There's another one in the 3:15 at Fairyhouse. Horse of Mr. Dempsey's, Broomfield's Jeremy. Took a bit of a crasher at the Dublin Racing Festival when he was beat, but he did win at Fairyhouse earlier in the season, and if the ground remains as it is, I think he'd have a great chance, and he's quite a nice price as well at the moment. And one at Cork for the Grand National winning trainer, we can say that now, can't we? Emmett Mullins. It's on the line in one of the Hunter Chasers at Cork. So that's a very brief roundup of what I'm betting tomorrow.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, it's on the line. I've just noticed that in the 409 race there, sneaking in 7-4 on the tissue. Unlike you to put a favourite on, Cathryn.
I know. I think what was it? Was it 2 mile 4 or 5 last time out first run for Emmett Mullins. Wasn't really that busy. We can imagine. Obviously, he owns it himself at the moment. He's obviously going to sell the horse on, so you'd be expected for him to have an improved performance tomorrow. Obviously, a bit like old Noble Yates, sell him to stay in the yard. It just caught the eye.
No, good stuff. Good insight. No, I like it. I love a fav from you because I love a fav. You can get more on.
Devil's Coachman's favourite as well, I think.
What race is he in tomorrow?
Devil's Coachman is in the 350.
350 race, and that he is. He's drifting though. So 11-4, 3-1 at the moment. So might get a better price. But I know you've been eyeing up Devil's Coachman all year, and I know he did the biz last time from Ashdale Bob. But I remember you'd been on a show before, and you were like, waxing lyrical about Devil's Coachman for this season. So
yeah, I had him down initially as wanting to back him in a sort of spring festival handicap chase, and obviously then he went and won the Boyne. But I really like the horse. He's a beautiful looking horse as well, and Black is a beautiful looking horse as well. And I don't know if you watched the run at the Dublin Racing Festival, I just couldn't really work out what was going on. And I fancied him in the Topham, so I have to be with him tomorrow. And I think Janadill's favourite. I mean, Janadill was ridden to pick up the places in the Ryanair, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, it was like, we'll just ignore, forget the one out in front, forget that one. We'll all back that one. But
yeah, I actually did. I backed Janadil in the places, but it was quite amusing. And we all know my love of Screaming Colours. But if the rain comes, and he'd have a right shout in the Irish National.
No, yeah. Like you say, you've been championing that one for last season, and more seconds than Jimmy White, and then all of a sudden came good in the Midlands, and I sort of. Did you back him in the Midlands?
Oh, I'd had a terrible week at Cheltenham, and I just thought, I just can't be throwing any more money at betting this week, and then there he goes and wins.
He's got a hard time off the handicapper. Like he's obviously gone to Britain and he's got the inflated mark, but the Andy Shaw hasn't really let up on him. So I think basically for his last run in Ireland, I think he was second in the Cork National. He's up nearly £20 from that run. So and I know Connor's on Enjoy That End rather than Screaming Colours, which is probably that's made my opinion on him anyway.
Yeah.
Right, Declan. Your sort of like best bets tomorrow.
Look, I picked out a few. I'll try to run through them quick. I haven't even seen a price on this horse, but in the Grade 2 juvenile hurdle, I do like Andy Slattery's horses. Like, and he's a decent. He's a few nice horses on the flat, the likes of Sunchart. But Rebel Step in the same colours. He won a maiden hurdle at Limerick last week. He fell in a maiden hurdle when he was going okay, and then he was thrown into the deep end in the Grade 2 at Leopardstown at Christmas. Fidor won that race. He was last. I just put a line through that race. I expect him to improve. I haven't seen a price on him tomorrow. Maybe catching a good looking at it. You can
33 to 1. I've got.
Oh, sweet.
33 to 1. On the nose. Back him on the nose. It's definitely not as tough as the race, the Grade 2 he ran in at Leopardstown at Christmas. I think he's a decent chance here. A lot of them have gone to Cheltenham and might still be feeling it. The handicap hurdle at 3:15, Capilano Bridge. He's owned by a man called Hugo Kane, who's actually on Twitter and absolute gentleman. Like he'll chat to you, and he's not big on Twitter, but he has a chat, and if he fancies his horse, he'll let you know. He finished ahead of Capadano in a rated novice hurdle, and he was fourth here last year, off £2 higher. He's down to 125 now. He was fancied at Turles, and then he was a bit keen at Turles, and then he probably bumped into a few at Cork, a few well-handicapped types. I don't think he'd be far away tomorrow. In the Grade 2 hurdle, 350, I really like the Devil's Coachman as well, but I'm a massive, massive fan of Flame Bearer. And, fair play to the Doyles. This is ballsy. He is a novice, but they're throwing him into open company here, and they've also gone up 4 furlongs with him. Now, I do think stepping up and Trip was probably the unlocking of the Devil's Coachman. I would have liked him to see him go up and Trip over fences. He was very good that day when he beat Ashdale Bob, and he got that Mark Walsh ride, winning by the smallest margin possible, which is we're going for the festival and going to win the Coral Cup. Unfortunately, he didn't go. But Flame Bearer, I think he's going to be some chaser. He's, still relatively unexposed. He is a novice. He's really top bumper form. He won a good bumper last March. He beat the likes of Gigolo Doi Doi, Anglers Crag, T's Component. Yes, he's won 2 Grade 2s, 2 Grade 2 novice hurdles. He ran against Braun in a maiden hurdle, and Paul Townend got into a wrestling match, not unlike what Brendan Pell done the other day. I thought he should have been thrown out, but he was stopped about 4 times up the straight the last day at Fairyhouse, and he still got up to win. Like I say, the horse has some engine, but I also throw out a shout to Durasso in that race. He's had a fantastic season. He's probably been, they just turn him out every week. They don't know he doesn't know what race he's running in. Is it a chase? Is it a hurdle? He just turns up and runs his race. He's had a really, really good season, and I don't think he'd be far away. But I think for the balls they've shown here with Flame Bearer, I'd love them to go and win. And I hope they don't ruin them. I would have been going to the 2 mile Grade 1 novice at Punchestown, but they're coming here, and I hope it pays off. But the Devil's Coachman will be difficult to beat. The Grade 2 chase at 420, the Cathryn's covered that well. I really do like Black Bow too, because I'm kind of hoping Jonathan is still feeling Cheltenham. And Cathryn mentioned it, he's a beautiful specimen. He's a really, really good looking horse. And then just in the Irish National, there's Max Flamingo has been a long time fancy for me. he ran a good beginner chases, and sometimes those beginner chases in Ireland, they can be deeper than Grade 1 novice chases. But he was behind the likes of Gabby Fury Road. He was a decent fourth in the 3 mile Grade 1 at Christmas that was won by Fury Road. He unseated in the big handicap at the Dublin Racing Festival, and then he was just never put into the next race at Leverstown. He was out the back, never even went with him. He won at Tourist about 2 weeks ago. I think when it didn't happen at Leverstown, I went out for this. And then the other one is Flower. You know, obviously he famously jumped the last like a bag of hammers at Fairyhouse, but he was a fine part in the handicap chase at Punchestown, and he was probably never trying in the ultimate. He did lose a shoe, so there's excuses there, but normally Irish horses aren't trying there because this pot's worth $500,000. Like, you know, there's a bigger prize to win, and he could be still ahead of the handicapper. I don't think either of those will be far away.
Cracking. Yeah, Fleur, Gordon Elliott, that's 25s. Jordan Gameford on board. Max Flamingo, I actually had a little bit on him last time at 4-7. That's my kind of price. When he beat Bacardi's, we love a short, hey. Well, I do. You know, I mean, it's great coming against you guys because I mean, you guys put some proper bets out at proper prices. Obviously, I've made my feeling. There's no need for me to go on. Gallard de Mesnil, I've already backed at 8-1 anti-purse. I just felt that like I think he's well in off 154. I listened to you, Declan, on your pod, and you know you make mentions of his jumping, and I get your point. You know, he's probably not the most, you know, accomplished, shall we say. But I do think some of the races to me, they look like float-ups. I mean, it's like the ride at Cheltenham, he gave so much sort of ground to the principles. I mean, I'm not saying like you turn up at a Grade 1 and just nail them to the floor. I don't think that was ever the plan. But it was just like, well, you're not going to win from that position. You know, you couldn't win after like 3 fences. That was it, finished.
Well, Willie had screwed him down in the Grade 1. Like he has history of doing that. You know, Franco Depart he was nailed down for about a year. You know, Royal Rendezvous was nailed down for Willie will do that. He has so many Grade 1 horses that he's no problem stopping them in Grade 1s, and that's where they pick up the experience because they run at Grade 1 pace. And to be honest, like if he jumps, I think he wins it, and I couldn't really put you off him, you know. But for me, I like taking on favourites, so that's really all that has me against him. Like it is a race that I think novice chasers win or run a great race in. So you know, it's probably the smart bet. Whereas I am rolling the dice with a couple of bigger price ones.
No, fantastic. Okie doke. I think that sort of wraps things up. Brilliant from Declan and Cathryn with the Irish angles, and I hope you've all enjoyed the show tonight. Myself, John, Cathryn, Declan, signing off. Hope it's a great bank holiday Easter Monday for you, and hopefully some winners. You back some winners, and hopefully from this podcast. That's all from us. Bye for now.